In life, there are moments when silence can be far more powerful than words. Sometimes a single word may carry less weight than 100 sentences, while a moment of silence can hold the strength of 1,000 words. Most people try to explain themselves, chase after others to be accepted, and even beg to be loved or valued. But remember, this is a clear sign of inner weakness and losing your own sense of worth. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength does not lie in explaining ourselves, begging, or proving ourselves to others. It lies in inner calm. The less you explain, the less you chase. And the less you beg, the higher you rise and the more your value increases. In this video, you will learn why you should never chase after someone, why begging diminishes a person, why not explaining yourself is your greatest advantage, and most importantly, how silence can become your superpower. If you want to appear strong, protect your self-worth, and apply the wisdom of the Stoics in your life, stay with us until the end. This video will give you a new perspective. Before watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends. And if you want to be the first to know about our new videos, turn on the notification bell. Let's start with this. You should never chase after someone. When you run after someone, you are essentially leaving your own value in their hands. Think about it. Has there ever been a time in your life when you spent all your energy trying to maintain a relationship with someone? You bent over backwards, compromised, and even gave up your principles just to avoid losing them. But what usually happens? Most of the time, it doesn't bring the results you hoped for. When people see you constantly chasing them, they stop valuing you. Stoic philosophy tells us that a person should never cheapen the value they inherently possess. If you lose yourself to gain someone else's attention, you have already started to lose your worth. Your value is not determined by how others treat you. It is determined by how you treat yourself. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine two friends, one constantly chases the other. If the other doesn't call, the friendship fades. If they don't message, no one seems to care. Eventually, this relationship becomes unbalanced. Why? Because one side is always giving and the other is only taking. This can never be a lasting friendship. Human nature is such that if you always chase someone, they will take your presence for granted. Relationships, whether friendship, love, or professional, must be built on mutual value. You should not chase after someone to remain in their life. Instead, let them make an effort to stay by your side. If a person truly values you, they will work to stay in your life just as much as you would for them. Remember, chasing someone not only elevates them but diminishes you. And the most dangerous part is that you may lose yourself in the process. The Stoics say, do not lose yourself trying to gain someone's attention, because what you lose may be yourself. Now ask yourself, who am I chasing? Are there people in my life whose attention I am desperately trying to earn? If the answer is yes, it's time to pause and reflect. You are spending your most valuable assets, your energy, time, and spirit on someone who may not even deserve them. True strength lies in not chasing after anyone. It lies in quietly stepping back. It lies in not cheapening yourself and in expecting someone to make an effort for you. If you are forced to run after someone to gain their attention, then that person is not worthy of being in your life. In reality, this is a kind of test. Most people fail it. They see a little indifference and immediately panic, starting to chase after the other person. But a strong person, a Stoic, does not do this. They know that value is never earned through begging or chasing. Value is gained by preserving your inner strength. If you apply this principle in your life, you will see that relationships change completely. People will start chasing you because they see your confidence and strength. The less you run, beg, or explain yourself, the more they value you. So remember, never chase after anyone. If someone wants to stay in your life, they will stay. If they leave, it means they were never meant to be there. My second point is this: never beg anyone for anything in life. Begging is the clearest sign that a person feels worthless, because when you beg, you are essentially sending the message, my value depends on your decision, on your attitude toward me. Without your approval, I am nothing. Think, why are you begging someone? What is it for? It is because of fear, the fear of losing them, their love, attention, or their relationship. But remember, if you are forced to beg someone to keep them, that relationship has already become a chain, and this chain does not free you. It only tightens around you. Many people find themselves in such situations in relationships. Those who beg out of fear of losing a lover, those who compromise themselves to keep a friend, those who humble themselves to stay in a job. But Stoic philosophy says that begging is actually giving up your own position. When you beg, you have already handed your power over to the other person. In truth, begging never produces the result you want. When you beg, the other person begins to see you as weak rather than valuable. In their eyes, you lose your strength. They know, this person is willing to do anything for me, will compromise themselves, even step over their principles for me. And tell me, in such a situation, does your value remain? Now imagine this. You go to a job interview. Instead of showing your abilities, you beg the employer, please hire me. I am ready to do anything. I'll do whatever you say. Even if they hire you, they will not respect you because you have cheapened yourself. True strength is saying, these are my skills. If this suits you, great. If not, my value will be recognized elsewhere. The same principle applies to relationships. In love, friendship, or family ties, begging always puts you in a weaker position. When you beg, you submit to the other person's decisions. But a healthy relationship is built on mutual value, not on one person being powerless before the other. Remember, begging is not just an action, it is an inner message. And that message is, I do not trust myself. My value depends only on how you see me. Stoics teach us that a person's value should never depend on another's decision. True strength is being able to live without begging. Instead of begging out of fear of losing someone, tell yourself, if this person wants to leave, let them go. My value is not measured by their presence, because it is true. If you have to beg someone to stay, that person is already left. A truly strong person does not beg because they know their happiness. Their worth and their power do not depend on anyone else's decision. By refusing to beg, you protect your position. So remember, never beg anyone in your life, whether in love, friendship, or work. When you beg, you surrender your own value. True strength is standing on your own without begging. And remember, if someone wants to stay in your life, they will. You cannot make them stay by begging. You can only keep them through your value. One of the biggest mistakes people make is constantly trying to explain themselves. Why did you do that? Why did you think that? Why did you make that decision? People feel obliged to answer these questions. Yet, you are the owner of your life and your choices. When you take your steps, you owe no one an explanation. Why then are we inclined to explain ourselves? Because we want to look good in the eyes of others. We fear someone will misunderstand us. We fear someone will be upset with us. So we start explaining our actions, feelings, and even simple decisions. But here's a subtle truth. Someone who truly knows you does not need an explanation. If you change a job, a true friend will understand it is for your growth. If you end a relationship, someone who truly understands, you will know. You would not make such a decision lightly. If you remain silent, someone who loves you will know there is a reason for your silence. And those who don't understand, you can explain 100 times and it will not change anything. That person has already decided not to understand. They do not want to hear your explanation. They only want to see you as they wish. Let's take an example. Imagine you've taken a new step in your life. Say, you've decided to start a business. The people around you immediately start asking, are you crazy? Why are you taking such a risk? Do you really think this will work? If you start explaining why you made this decision, what your plans are, what strategy you have, often they still won't believe you. Their perspective is different. But if you move forward without explanation, your results will speak for themselves. People will understand you not through your words, but through your outcomes. The same applies to relationships. Sometimes people try to explain their actions. I didn't reply to your message because I was very tired. I took this step because I wasn't feeling well. But if the other person doesn't want to understand you, every explanation only puts you on the defensive. Meanwhile, they become even more demanding. Silence, however, is a stronger response. Silence sends a subtle message. I'm not obligated to explain my actions. Those who want to know me will understand. Those who don't, I cannot stand in their way. Stoic philosophy teaches that a person should demonstrate their position through experience, not explanation. If you continue calmly and decisively on your path, it has a far stronger impact than 1,000 words ever could. Even in everyday life, this happens. Imagine someone has spoken unfairly about you. The first instinct is to defend yourself, to explain. But the strongest response is often to say nothing. Your silence sends a direct message. I am strong enough that I don't need to prove myself. Explaining yourself often becomes a weapon in the other person's hands. The more you talk, the more they learn about your vulnerabilities, and the more they press. But when you remain silent, they have no weapon left against you. Think about it. Throughout history, the most powerful leaders, philosophers, and thinkers, were they constantly explaining themselves? Or were they calmly holding their ground? Their power lay not in their words, but in their unwavering stance. In fact, life has a simple rule. Do not explain to those who do not want to understand. Even 1,000 words are wasted on someone who refuses to comprehend. Those who truly care will understand with just a glance. So remember, every time you try to explain yourself, you lose a bit of your value. Explaining implies you need someone else's approval, yet your life needs no one's approval but your own. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Silence has its own magnificent language. Through silence, you communicate. My decision is firm. My feelings are my own. I'm not obliged to explain them. In Stoic philosophy, one of the most recommended practices is remaining calm. In practical life, the power of silence is so great that it cannot be fully expressed in words. Silence is not merely the absence of speech. On the contrary, it is the greatest weapon, showing a person's inner order, strength, and patience. The Stoics said, "It is good to be master of words, but greater still to be master of silence." People speak every day, argue, explain themselves, and try to prove themselves. But the person who chooses silence stands out. They know they are not obliged to respond to everything. They do not waste energy on trivial matters. Imagine this: someone insults you. Most people immediately respond, shout, or go on the defensive. But you remain calm. You stay silent. Some may perceive this as weakness, but in reality it is the purest form of strength. You are in control of your emotions, while the other person is captive to theirs. Who wins here? Naturally, you do. Silence also acts as a mirror to people. When you remain silent, the other person hears the echo of their own words more clearly. Often, they begin to realize that what they said was meaningless or even harmful. When you do not respond, their conscience, this inner voice, starts speaking. And very often, this becomes the most powerful lesson. In Stoic philosophy, silence is seen as a sign of inner discipline. The greatest struggle a person faces is to control their tongue. When a storm rages inside, the easiest way out is to speak, to vent your anger. But true strength lies in restraint, in mastering yourself. Let's connect this to real life. Imagine your boss unfairly lashes out at you at work. If you argue back, the situation only escalates. But if you stay silent and listen attentively, your boss may eventually realize that their words were too harsh or even unfair. Without saying a word, you turn the situation in your favor. The same applies to relationships. When both parties shout during an argument, the problem grows. But when one stays silent, calmness emerges. Silence is like pouring water on fire. It acts as the strongest shield against anger. Remember, silence does not always mean acceptance. Often it sends the subtle message, "You are not worth my response." It is the most subtle yet powerful stance, showing people that your words are not cheap and that you do not lower yourself to everyone's level. Additionally, silence gives you strength, because people quickly forget those who talk too much. But someone who speaks little remains silent, and only speaks when necessary is remembered. Each of their words carries weight. One word from them can have more value than 10 from a chatterer. Silence also makes a person appear deeper. A talkative person exposes everything inside them, but someone who remains silent stays intriguing. People often say they speak little, yet they know so much. This creates a hidden aura around you. Ultimately, silence is not just a habit, it is your superpower. Anyone can speak, but not everyone can remain silent. Speaking is easy. Silence requires willpower, strength, and wisdom. Sometimes the strongest word is no word at all. Sometimes the greatest response is no response. And sometimes your silence can achieve what 100 words cannot. In Stoic philosophy, silence is more than not speaking. It is a sign of inner strength, self-protection, and setting boundaries. In life, people often measure us by our reactions, our words or our emotions. Silence responds to all of this. Even without speaking, you communicate volumes. Imagine a friend misunderstands you, misjudges you, or acts unfairly toward you. Previously, you might have tried to explain, sometimes getting angry, sometimes begging to be understood. But silence shows a completely different power. Silence is your way of protecting your value. You do not waste your energy. You maintain emotional control. And people are compelled to respect your stance. Think about work. You created a project, but a team member makes a mistake and pressures you. Before, you would have immediately responded, defending yourself. Now you choose silence. You calmly do your work without reacting. After a few days, your colleague realizes your value, your patience, and your professionalism stand out. Here, silence becomes your superpower. Silence also sends a message to others. My energy is valuable. I do not waste it. People sense this, and often it does not need to be explained in words. Your silence communicates more than your actions could. The same applies in relationships. People often test you, provoke you, or make demands. If you explain every time, you get caught up in their energy. But when you stay silent, their true intentions are revealed. Silence also shows who your real friends are and who is only around for convenience. Silence is also an expression of self-respect and boundaries. Your value is not measured by the attention or love others give you. Your value is revealed by how little you explain, beg, or chase. People watch those who speak constantly, but they are fascinated by those who remain silent. This reflects your inner freedom. Silence is the guardian of emotional balance. People will always speak, argue, or provoke you. But when you remain calm, their words and actions cannot control you. This strengthens your inner power and allows you to navigate life through silence. Ultimately, the Stoic superpower is maintaining your value in every situation, protecting your energy, and showing your stance through silence. Silence is your most precious asset, and when used wisely, it can influence people more than words ever could. If you want to increase your value, maintain inner calm, and demonstrate your strength through silence, apply this Stoic superpower in your daily life. In life, people often try to measure us. Who gives attention? Who listens? Who agrees? But the true measure lies in your own value and in preserving your inner peace. Remember, never chase after anyone. If people do not make an effort to follow you, they are not invested enough to stay in your life. Chasing only diminishes your value. Stoic philosophy makes this clear. If you lose yourself trying to gain someone's attention, what you lose is yourself. Never beg. Begging is a sign of weakness and surrendering your value to someone else's decision. Whether at work, with friends, or in a relationship, begging gives you no power. True strength exists without begging, simply by living your life. Never over-explain. People will not always understand your actions. Someone who refuses to understand will not change, no matter how much you explain. Silence is the strongest response here. Silence is both self-protection and a way to communicate to others. My energy is valuable. Silence is not just about not speaking. It is a reflection of your inner strength. Silence means maintaining your emotional boundaries against the words and actions of others. True value is revealed when people appreciate you without needing explanations, without begging, and without chasing after you. Applying this approach in daily life gives you a significant advantage. At work, in friendships, and in relationships, people notice your calmness and self-respect. Your silence impresses them, makes them think, and most importantly, protects your inner strength. Ultimately, silence is your greatest weapon. This weapon allows you to show your value, maintain your boundaries, and live your life with inner freedom. Silence speaks louder than words. Through your actions and stance, it sends a clear message to others. If you want to learn the power of silence and apply it in your daily life, remember, subscribe to the channel. Don't miss new videos. Like the video, your support matters. Share it with friends. Let them also discover the power of silence. Turn on notifications. Be the first to know when a new video is out. Learn the power of silence, protect your inner calm, and live your life guided by Stoic philosophy. Because the greatest power does not lie in words, but in your inner stance and serenity.